Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our midday mindfulness moment. Today is Monday, and I'm going to share with you today some thoughts, some musings on fear. So, fear is something that many of you may be experiencing right now in um, different levels of intensity. And know that fear has a very distinct and important role in our evolution. Fear is important in helping us to distinguish threats to our survival. And when we perceive fear, we start to get triggered into our nervous system that triggers the stress response of fight, flight, or freeze. And fear can have, a capital F or a little f. So sometimes we fear things that are real small things. I fear that the toast is going to burn if I let my kids cook themselves. Or they could be really big things, like I fear I'm going to lose my job if this pandemic continues. How am I going to feed my family? We have fears that come through us often, and fear and anxiety are very closely related. They're very interconnected, but yet different at the same time. So, anxiety is a very common experience. Many of us feel anxious about various things, but we don't necessarily feel anxious about things that we fear. We feel anxious about, hi Susie. We feel anxious about things that are unknown. So perhaps you get anxious before you go to a college reunion because you want to make sure you look good. You don't know if you're going to remember everyone's name. You get a little nervous, a little excited in a nervous way as you anticipate what's going to happen. Or maybe you get anxious before a job interview. So you're not fearful of the job, getting the job or interviewing for the job. It's not something you're scared of. It's just something that excites the nervous system and makes you feel anxious. Maybe you're preparing a holiday meal and you're really looking forward to it, but it just creates a lot of anxiety because there's a lot of work to do beforehand. So, anxiety and fear while have interrelated triggering of the nervous system, have just they play out differently, very, very differently emotionally. And so, we think about fear as being scared of the unknown. And oftentimes, fear is worse than pain because pain is sensed and felt. It's really real and tangible. And fear is completely unknown. It's out of our control. We have no idea what's going to happen. And so fear can be a very, very overwhelming emotion for most of us. It's important to know how you respond to fear. It's important to notice what fear feels like in your body so you can be aware of it when it arrives. So, in terms of mindfulness is very helpful as a tool to guide us to connect to our inner wisdom and our intuition when we notice that we are fearful. When we notice we're fearful and that response is triggered in your body, however it manifests for you, when you begin to become mindful of that experience, it helps us to lean into it a little bit rather than be gripped by it and overwhelmingly scared of it. It allows us to invite it in, to welcome it, and to notice it, have a conversation with it. It enables us to, rather than fear things and lose control or feel like the fear is controlling us and causing us to do things irrationally or things that we regret. When you open your mind up to the presence of fear, it helps you to deal with it a lot more effectively. And so the mindfulness leaders, any mindfulness leaders that you read or study or practice with, oftentimes they're psychologists or neurobiologists or psychiatrists, psychotherapists. They all will tell you the same thing about fear. They all will give you the guidance to invite fear in, they say, lay out the welcome mat. Welcome the fear in as just one of the many emotions that you may experience throughout your day or your month or your life. And know that when you can confront fear with curiosity and compassion, then it disables the fear's ability to hijack your nervous system and completely control you and grip you and seize you. When you soften a little bit into the fear and welcome it as a human emotion that all of us experience, it gives you the chance to notice how you're feeling, to notice the effect it's laying in your body, and to then do something about it. Because when our nervous system is hijacked and we're in that fight, flight, or freeze mode, we can't think rationally because the front part of our brain, the frontal lobe, the part that helps us think through and reason and use our intuitive skills of problem solving, those areas of the brain are not accessible when we are gripped by fear. Our only job in that moment of fear is survival. So if you can embody a sense of presence when you notice that you are fearful, scared of something, and really just welcome it compassionately, it changes the framework. It changes your well-being. It changes your perspective. It gives you a chance to just invite it in. And so, a few steps. Here are some steps to take when you notice you are fearful, and then or in fear. And then I'm going to guide you through a meditation at the end. So, the first step is see the fear. Notice that you're fearful, and notice where you feel that in your body. So maybe you feel a gripping in your chest. Maybe you feel your hips start to tighten. Maybe you feel your heart rate start to breathe a little bit more rapidly, or a little sweat forming on your brow. It plays out differently in different people. So just become aware of your physical symptoms of fear. And then ask yourself, what is the worst that can happen? Right? Of all of these fears that are right now imagination, little nuggets of my imagination, if all of these fears become realized, what is the worst that will happen? Right? And just confront that reality, that possibility of reality. It's not reality, it's just a possibility of what may happen. And is there anything that I can do to make a change to this situation that frightens me? What changes can I make? What is in my control? Right? Is this fear triggered by past experiences or memories? Am I afraid of something happening now that will affect my future? And just have a conversation, get curious about the fear. Once you've felt it in your body, you notice how it may affect your breathing. Try to counteract that with longer, softer breaths, fuller breaths into the body, breaths that explore your full potential for inhalation and your full potential for exhalation, so that you're counteracting the stress response in your nervous system and bringing a sense of peace, right? And then the final step is, can you be friends with the fear, right? I'm going to read you a quote by an international surfing legend, Chris Burdish, who says this: "Fear is saying, this is the perfect time to be able to do what you're trying to do. Your body is actually preparing you for a positive outcome." Once you can really understand that fear is an emotion like any other emotion, you can learn to manage it. And then you can do things that most people consider to be extraordinary. And so, what he's speaking to is when your body is noticing the trigger of fear, and you start to get that physiological response of flight, fight, or freeze, you start to get flooded with hormones that sort of make you superhuman, right? You can jump farther and run faster, and you breathe more efficiently so that you're conserving, and your muscles become a little bit stronger. And that is a moment where you can turn that fear into greatness. And not just in a physical way, but in a way that mentally you can overcome challenges by digging deep into your courage. And so, how can you use fear? How can you become the fear? How can you befriend the fear and use whatever is arriving in your body as a way to fight it, to become victorious, and to go on to do great things? Right? It's just a way to reframe it Rather than letting yourself be gripped and seized and paralyzed by fear, once you notice it, you breathe into it, you get curious about it, and you become it, what can happen? What are the possibilities in that moment? So, I'm going to guide you in a little meditation. This is based on Tara Brach's meditation, Transforming Fear. And in the description for this mindfulness session, I put a link to her meditation. It's about 12 minutes long. It's a beautiful way for you to really start to lean into the fear, to welcome it as any one of the other emotions that you hold and host in your body throughout the day. So I'm going to give you a very abbreviated version of the meditation. So I invite you to come into a comfortable seat. Maybe you're already there. Maybe there's a slight shift in the body you can make to make yourself even more comfortable. If you feel right closing your eyes, then invite the lids to gently blink the eyeballs. If it feels better for you to keep the eyes open with a steady gaze, then just have the gaze float down to something below you. Offer gentleness into the body, softening the muscles, feeling relaxed and at ease. Then begin to notice the breath. No need to change it in any way. It is just right on its own, but notice how it feels. Notice the sensation of the inhale and the sensation of the exhale. Giving thanks for the breath for sustaining life, and also for offering a focal point that connects you to the present moment. It helps to detach you from ruminating over the past or worrying about the future. It reminds us that right here and now, we are pure presence. So begin to settle in your mind into a scenario that typically provokes fear for you. Or maybe naturally you're holding fear in your body right now, surrounded by a global pandemic. Maybe there's fear with your job or relationship issue. Maybe you have a loved one who is not well. Allow yourself to settle into this scenario. Begin to connect with where you feel the fear in your body. Does the fear show up as thoughts in your mind? Does it show up in the body as tightness or shaking or pain? Open up your mindful presence to the way fear arrives in your own body. And rather than pushing it away, rather than trying to turn it off, This fear is very intelligent. It's trying to get your attention for a reason. So, just as you would someone knocking on your door, open up the door and welcome it in. Welcome it in with friendly, curious, compassionate smile on your face. Welcome it in just as you would a friend who is suffering, and ask the fear, what do you most need from me right now? What most needs my attention? When the fear arrives, where do you most feel vulnerable? Continue to stay friendly and curious with all that arises. If you notice becoming resistant to the fear because it's provoking pain, see if you can soften a little bit to it, or come back to your deep breaths. What do you most need right now to help relieve yourself of the suffering? Is it compassion, forgiveness? What would help you to feel healed in that place of fear? Wherever you're feeling damaged, what do you most need to patch the holes, to feel renewed? Start to guide your hands up to stack over your heart and begin this healing process by opening up the loving energy and allowing it to flood your body, particularly where you most need it. The part of the body that most suffers when you are fearful, when you are scared, when you are nervous about outcomes or the unknown. Be embodied in your presence for yourself as you bathe in this fearful space with pure love. Perhaps saying the words that you most need to hear right now. And maybe you notice yourself unfolding out of this vulnerable space, releasing the tightness and the grip that the fear has held on you like a hostage, and melting more into loving presence. And once you're able to bathe yourself in compassion, forgiveness, and presence, then you start to open your awareness to the others in your life, people that you know or people that you don't know who you know are indeed suffering from fear as well. And you begin to generously open your heart, compassionately sharing that loving presence, helping to soothe their wounds. And when you show up with this mindful presence in the face of fear, welcoming it with friendly, curious, you know, attendance, you're softening its power. You're allowing it to show up to inform you of anything that may be important for you to know, but you're not letting it take over your mind or grip your body. And then once you've had your conversation, you're welcome to, just as you would a visitor, say goodbye and allow it back out the door, knowing that it may come back to visit again, but in this moment, you're feeling free, feeling a little bit more at peace. Take a big breath in, let a breath go. You're welcome to open your eyes and join us once again. I hope you found this helpful. Again, I know this is a time that is filling many with fear, and you could just let your mind get ahead of you and continue to spiral in the thoughts of negativity and destruction and um, how we just don't know what's going to happen day to day. Or you can invite meditative moments like this where you open up your heart, open up your awareness to what you're sensing and feeling, and just bathe yourself in compassion. So, again, I linked Tara Brach's meditation on which this was loosely based so that you have a chance to practice with her. It's a beautiful way to feel yourself easing out from the weight of fear. And as always, I'll be back next Monday with another midday mindfulness moment. If there's something that you'd like me to address, feel free to send me an email or drop it in the comments here. And I'm also present every morning at 9 a.m. on WebEx and on YouTube Live for a mindful movement yoga flow. Every day is a different theme, and you're welcome to join our community. It's always a lot of fun. You can find those links on my Facebook page, Eat Yoga Drink. And otherwise, I wish you all the very best as you go about your day, staying positive and filled with light and love. Take care.